Rent-A-Pal is one of those movies that's going to leave you feeling changed after viewing it. It's one of those films that transports you into the middle of an uncomfortable story with characters that feel all too real and make you feel sad that there actually are people like this in the world. Reminiscent of the lovable losers of Napoleon Dynamite, and set in the very specific and awkward year of 1990, Rent-A-Pal feels like the dark flip side of that coin where everything works out horribly in the end. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights page and give it a like. Share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Let's get the word out for both ML Miller Frights and the Kings of Horror Network, so we can make both channels bigger and better. Rent-A-Pal is out now in select theaters, on demand, and digital download from IFC Midnight. It's directed by John Stevenson and stars Brian Landis Folkens, Will Wheaton, Amy Rutledge, and Kathleen Brady. David, played by Brian Landis Folkens, is sad and lonely. He lives in his mother's basement not because he wants to, though he does, but because he has to take care of her as she is ailing from dementia. This means that he doesn't get out much. Still, David tries to make contact with others by using a dating service and making video interviews in hopes to find his perfect match. After a particularly awkward taping of a new interview for the dating service, David notices an obscure video entitled Rent-A-Pal, and he decides to pick it up on a whim. When he gets home and watches it, he meets Andy, played by Will Wheaton, who speaks to him through the video screen, and takes part in mock conversations with the viewer. Andy is understanding, likable, and everything David is looking for in a companion. But when the dating agency sets up a date with a perfect and real live girl named Lisa, played by Amy Rutledge, it seems Andy doesn't like being left behind. This forces David to choose between a new life in the real world or the one he has in the safe confines of his home with Andy. Rent-A-Pal is a small and quirky film. Like David himself, the film doesn't go big and bawdy with the laughs. It's funny and charming at times, but never so much that I would call it a comedy. The film also takes quite a long time to descend into the horror, and though seeing the IFC Midnight label and the fact that I'm reviewing it is a clear indication that this eventually does become a horror film, for the most part, Rent-A-Pal is simply tragic from beginning to end, as David's life is truly one I would not even wish on my worst enemy. In many ways, David is the 90s equivalent of the incel, trapped in the basement of his home and lacking the drive and the skills to interact with those outside. The struggle David faces with interacting with the real world is made extremely clear, and you can't help but feel for the guy in his predicament, mainly because there's a key moment in the beginning where David really pours out his soul on camera in one of his videotaped interviews for the dating service. There are a lot of parallels between Rent-A-Pal and Joker that become more obvious by the end of the film. Both films depict a person with a deep yearning to connect with someone, yet lack the social skills and mental capacity to do so. There are times where I wanted Rent-A-Pal to go broader, deeper, and bigger, but it never really does. The film is an enigma of sorts, never falling into one specific genre or laying out what type of film it exactly is. It doesn't seem to care about labels itself. It seems like a psychological deep dive into a demented psyche, but then again, there are moments where it seems like this bizarre tape David finds is actually haunted and forms a supernatural-like bond with its viewer. Or is David just lonely and nuts, and the connection we all see form is all in David's head? Well, I'm pretty sure it's the latter, It's never really made clear, as there isn't a time when anyone other than David sees the video. I don't know if some clarity would have helped, maybe a scene where David is seeing and hearing something on the video, and then another person doesn't see that same image that David is experiencing. I don't know if that would have helped and made it clearer, but I think it would have made it much more creepier. Sadly, that scene isn't in this film, and the ambiguity of it all is leaving with a nagging feeling. Rent-A-Pal feels like an awkward family photo from 1990, depicting all of those wonky styles, gaudy trends, and dated decor of an era that was trying desperately to distinguish itself from the 80s. At times, I feel Rent-A-Pal is too immersive in the mundane life of David. It sure takes its time for the bombastic stuff to happen. Trust me, it does occur, but it might be a little too late for some. Still, this film proves to be quite the heartbreaker, mostly due to the convincingly pathetic performance of Brian Landis Folkens and the bizarre relationship he forms with the face on the screen. Days after seeing Rent-A-Pal, I can't shake it. It's one of those descents in the dark that really pulled me in, and it's kind of uncomfortable in here. That'll be it for today. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. Don't forget about the new trade paperback of my comic book horror series Grave Trancers. It's out in finer comic shops right now. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside.